Hi, my name is Michelle from the Illinois Roofing Academy, and I'm here to talk with Del Beard, the very brilliant teacher of our upcoming class. So welcome, Del.
Hi, Michelle.
Thanks for joining me. Why don't you tell us all about yourself and how you became a teacher, and then you could go into a little bit about what's going to happen during the class.
Okay, well, I was born in Harvey and grew up in Park Forest. My dad was a professor and my mom was a school teacher. So that probably is why I fell into this. I've been teaching more than 20 years and I just love teaching. I feel it's kind of three things. You need to explain things, you need to engage with students, and you need to try to entertain a little bit.
Yeah, and I heard that you are an amazing teacher, which is why you have a pass rate of 95%, which is extraordinary. Why don't you tell us what makes the class so different?
Well, I think one thing is that whoever's teaching needs to be familiar with the exam. It's good to have a background knowledge of the material, but most importantly, this is an exam prep course. So I think that's where we shine. We probably have the most experience with that.
And what can students expect to learn?
I would say the vast majority of the class time, Michelle, is spent on the exam itself. We want to get into the style of the exam, the format of the exam, the words used in the exam, because like so many exams, it's theory, someone's opinion of theory, and we have to address that. So that's really what we focus on almost all the time.
And you must do an amazing job to help pass over 1,600 students.
Thank you. Well, I love teaching, and if any of you have had a teacher that you could tell loved you, they enjoyed the process of learning, and I really believe in classroom experience, and maybe that helps with the pass rate.
Now, how does a classroom course compare to an online course?
I'm really glad you asked that. I think one thing that COVID has made real clear is it's all about the learning outcome. And a classroom experience is vastly superior to an online experience. Ask any student, ask any teacher. I think the results of that are clear. Probably a 2-for-1. Classroom beats online for learning outcome.
Absolutely. And they're missing out on having you in the classroom, your dynamic personality.
And each other.
Yes.
I think student interaction is really what we try to get to happen. And I think you're in a room with some other people that want what you want. And I think that just helps the learning. I think almost everyone would agree that a classroom experience has a lot of value with it.
Absolutely. A lot of positive energy happening in those classes, I'm sure.
Yes.
Okay, Del, now that we have all that great information, let's go a little bit deeper and talk about what students could expect to learn in this class.
Sure. The class, again, is tied to the exam. So what I've tried to do, first, I've written a book that's been updated and revised as the years have gone on, based on what is asked on your exam. So during the class time, we're kind of going through bit by bit what those topics are, what are the key words in those topics, and a way to kind of hook a key word with a key answer word to make that process of taking an exam easier. It's a multiple choice exam, and we need to get 70% of our answers correct. So how can we make sure that happens? Let's break these down into topics, chunk by chunk by chunk, 45-minute chunks, and break that down into easy to remember keywords and key answers. I think that's the process, and trying to entertain and engage as we go along with each other that makes it successful, actually. People do enjoy it. They're with others in the business, so they're interested anyways. They know this is good for customers and good for them. So I think the motivation is there and the tactic is effective.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a 95% pass rate is very impressive. And obviously students are having fun and retaining all that information they're doing so well. That's great.
I might comment, Michelle, I think it's important for folks that have experience versus those that don't have experience. There certainly is a feeling from folks that have a lot of field experience that they have a leg up. But I would remind anyone that these tests are based on someone's opinion of what theory is. And these people that write the exam, it seems to me, someone familiar with the exams, the writers of the exam don't know anything about the reality and the practice of roofing. So I think the test is based more on theory, and the class is picking up on that. So if you have experience, what you want to think about is, let's learn the theory the way they test it. And if you don't have any experience, you might have an advantage because you're not filled with information that will not appear in your exam anyways.
That's interesting. I could see right away what makes taking a class from you so different and what a unique experience it will be for students. So I hope that everybody comes out and registers. And if they're thinking of taking the roofing exam, definitely they should be a part of your class. So Del, I know we talked a little bit about how an online experience is different than a classroom experience, but if you could elaborate a little bit more, because today, people are talking about online courses and taking remote classes. So tell us what makes being in classroom so unique.
Well, I think as a teacher, I'm probably biased, but I think if you'd ask most students that have been through the experiences of COVID, I think if there's one big thing that's shown us, is that the learning outcome that you get from a classroom experience far outweighs the learning that you get from an online course. An online course is just a digital textbook, and the data is quite clear that I think there's even some numerical data on the percentage learning outcome decrease from an online course. And it's something like 50% less learning from online time versus classroom time. If you ask any teacher or pretty much ask the average student, what did you do better with? They're going to agree that the classroom experience is superior. So I think in terms of bang for the buck of your time, and isn't everything time, that the classroom experience far outweighs it. We have this chance to engage with each other. We have someone who's experienced with the exam to point out, hey, this word is more important, or if you didn't understand this, let's talk about that a little more. And maybe others can join in this conversation. So I feel strongly, as most any teacher would, that the classroom experience is far superior. And I think now COVID has really taught us that the learning outcome is substantially, noticeably superior in the classroom experience.
Yeah, that's very well said. Perfect.
No, I appreciate you asking. I think it's a really important question as you're looking around for, how am I going to pass this darn exam? That you want to maximize your time and you want to maximize your learning. And I know from having all these students all these years in the Illinois roofing exam that we know what's on the exam, and we feel we know how to deliver and get the learning for the keywords and the right answers. So please consider your time.
Del, I have another question for you, and this might be out of left field, but I've heard that the test is based on theory versus real field experience. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, yes, I can, and I'm really glad you asked that. Something I would be saying at the beginning of every class is what we have to get our mind around to start is that the test is on theory, but field experience is the actual practice. So let's talk about theory versus practice. Practicing roofing is one thing, but that's not what the test is about. The test was written more than 20 years ago, that's clear, as are some of the resource materials that are recommended by the Roofing Contractors Association. So we have to get our mind around what our mission is to pass the exam. And the exam is based on someone's opinion of what theory, roofing theory, from 20 some years ago. Actual practice is not as pertinent. Sometimes we talk about practices in class because that matter. Some people need to think about what they know in practice and get away from that notion because it might be discussed differently or addressed differently on the exam. So practice versus theory is almost like a theme of our class throughout. I can safely say that those that walk into the classroom without any experience do just as well or perhaps slightly better than those that have substantial roofing experience because of that reason. Practice and knowledge of practice can actually get in the way a little bit of test performance because our bias and our thinking is in that way. So yes, practice versus theory. I'm really glad you brought that up.
Yeah, no, that's a great explanation for prospective students on that subject.
Ask any roofer that sat for the exam that had experience that decided not to prepare at all for the exam. And that roofer will tell you, oh my God, what was that exam about? I have no idea. What were they asking? That was BS. So I think that's one of the programming we do at the beginning of class that's very helpful to people.
Now let's get to the important stuff. How does someone register for the class?
Oh, well, Michelle, thanks for asking. That's really pretty easy. We got a couple of phone numbers that you can call, which you can perhaps see on your screen or will. And it's just a phone call away. They get a little bit of information like your name and address and your email address. And that's all you got to do to register for class.
And of course, they could always visit our website at ilroofingacademy.com. And then in the post or in the links below, we'll put the dates and times of the class. So it's super easy to register, and what a great experience for somebody to start a new career. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Michelle, and look forward to all you joining us.